digitization, which brings me to my next question. Has digitization been given a boost? UPI payments have surged. Just look at the numbers compared to November 2016 to October 2022. And of course, India today accounts for the maximum number of digital payments across the world. Anshul Abhijit, the Prime Minister didn't mention digitization in that speech on November 8, 2016. But would you concede that digitization in a way got a spurt, a boost as a result of what happened in 2016, unintended or intended consequence?
No, intended, unintended, we're not talking about Adam Smith. What happens is that digitization wasn't even one of the objectives of demonetization when it was thought out. It became an afterthought much later. It happened due to various other reasons. Digitization of Indian economy during COVID, etc. But that wasn't one of the stated objectives, which was black money, which was a surgical strike on corruption, which was actually national security. The bogey of national security was given at one of the reasons. The problem here is in the debate, and what I'm hearing is that high frequency data, the formalized economy is always brought out, how much tax returns, how much tax revenue is given. We are always saying that this is a profit-led recovery. People are making money, companies are making money, there is more tax revenue, and that's going down. That's coming to the government. There is a formal economy that might be doing well. But what about the informal economy that got completely devastated by demonetization? We are not talking about 95% of our labor force, which is in the informal economy, which are the MSMEs, which have been severely impacted by demonetization and the effects we continue to see today.
Let Mr. Zafar Islam respond to that. Zafar Islam, you want to respond to that? The government now cites digitization and the boost that has been given to digitization as a consequence of what happened in 2016. There are others who will say that it's been a secular rise. Digitization was on the growth track. The sub-stack that has been created, the India stack that has been created, is not linked to demonetization. You didn't need to disrupt so many millions of households to ensure that digitization picked up. And digitization has picked up post-COVID, much more than it picked up post-demonetization.
Rajdeep, as I said earlier, that the Honorable Prime Minister at that point in time, in 2016, had achieved many objectives through one stroke of pen. And that is what we had always been speaking in 2016 and even now. The digitization was, definitely you can read those reports at that point in time, that one of the objectives, stated objective was the push to digitization. Tax compliance. Today, yes, you see formal economy, informal economy unfolding into informal economy. It is so evident from the fact that the revenue, the tax collection, GST collection, is so steep in last few years, and now is 1.5 trillion every month-on-month basis. That only suggests that part of the informal economy has now folded into formal economy, and also I can demonstrate through some other data point that EPFO numbers, if you see that constantly it is rising, ESIC data, it is constantly rising. That only suggests that part of informal economy has now been part of the formal economy. That's why tax compliance has improved.
Okay.
The GST collection has improved, and even the number, if you see that it has put government in a comfortable zone. Despite all the crises globally, India is in a very sound,
but it was not.
Position,
it was certainly not part of what the Prime Minister. Sir, it was not what the Prime Minister announced.
Many other policy reforms.
Okay, it was not what the Prime Minister announced on November 8, 2016. The word digitization was never used in that speech. No, it was never used. SC Garg. Let's do a fact check. SC Garg, tax compliance. Just a minute, sir. Tax compliance much greater now. If you look at direct tax collection, 24% higher than same period last year. GST collections are, both direct and indirect tax collections are up. Do you believe, Mr. Subhash Chandra Garg, that somewhere demonetization was a trigger for this, or do you believe that that must be seen as separate to GST, which over the years has now achieved a level wherein collections are up? Was it linked at all to demonetization? Was demonetization necessary for digitization and tax compliance?
I don't think there is a very good correlation or connection between the demonetization and the tax growth. If it was there, the GST would have actually gone up much more in the years after 17, but the GST did not receive any good growth until 2020. One, in fact, it's only last year that there has been massive increase in the GST, and which is continuing this year. But please watch the numbers carefully. This year, in the second quarter, the GST growth is much lower at about 12-13%. And in my assessment, largely the growth in GST in last year and in the first quarter of this year has been largely because of the import surge and the inflation. And with both these factors coming into some sort of control or reduction, we may not get actually that kind of growth in the remaining two.
No, so you're saying there is no direct correlation between demonetization, digitization and tax compliance. Am I correct?
Very little connection. Digitization, of course, has more, because then if you bring the businesses formally,
right,
the formal businesses pay more taxes, both the GST as well as the income tax. But that segment is not actually making a lot more profits. What the segment which is making most profit is where the inflation and the global supply disruptions cause large profits to arise. For example, you look at the metal sector, the massive profits generated last year. This year, if you look at the some of these companies, their profits are actually coming down by 80%, 90%. So there is no direct connection or correlation between these three factors.